Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be prepping up some 45 Colt brass here. We just need to get them full length sized, expanded, and then we're going to prime them. Then we can just set them aside until we are ready to load. Now these are supposedly brand new, but we're going to go ahead and size them anyways because we don't know their origin. And maybe perhaps in shipment some of those case mouths could have got dinged up or bent or whatever. So anyways, it's always a good idea to go ahead and resize or at least expand your case mouths on supposedly new brass. So let's get to it. So we're using good old Remington Peters 45 Colt head stamp brass here. We've got our RCBS 454 Colt dies. They're going to work just fine for us for the 45 Colt. And then we're going to go ahead and throw in the Ginex large pistol primers via the Lee Ram Prime here. So my experience so far with Ginex, all of the small pistol primers and all of the small rifle primers I've used, perhaps maybe 1,000 or so of each by this point, they've all gone bang with no issue. However, me and a couple of other people have commented that they feel a little bit tighter than your normal North American, maybe CCI or Federal primer do. So perhaps they have maybe a slightly larger diameter. Who knows? Anyways, that's been the consensus. So they feel a little bit tougher to prime. So we're going to go ahead and take that into consideration today while we're priming with a oversized primer and a new primer pocket. We'll see how tough that is to seat or if we have any issues there. Otherwise, I don't expect any problems with the Ginex primers, and neither should you guys, so let's go ahead and get into it. So it's real easy to get our dies set up. We're just going to get our shell holder, and I've got the RCBS number 20 shell holder here for the 45 Colt. Slide that in down below. And we've got our carbide full length sizing die. We're not going to need any lubrication here. So we'll go ahead and get that started, raise up our ram, and we'll just go ahead and touch the shell holder here today because we don't really need to squish them down or make sure to get around that base or anything since they're new. They've never been blown out to any other chamber. So we shouldn't have an issue there. And also note, if you have one of those carbide rings in your die, and you have too much cam over, you can crack it or damage it or bend it out of spec, so just be careful of that. So I don't want any cam over, we're not doing like this or anything. So just touch the shell holder, we'll snug that up, and then I'll just hit it with the old wrench to make sure it's not going anywhere on us. And we'll go ahead and get these sized real quick. Last one, and we are done sizing. We'll go ahead and pop out our sizing die here. Just get rid of that real quick. I'll sit them in the die box. Now we'll go for our expanding die here. So here's your RCBS expanding die. So it'll start to create a pocket and then eventually bell out once you get to a certain depth there. So I like to start with a new piece of brass, freshly sized. We're gonna go ahead and run her up there and get the die somewhere set in there. We just contacted the brass. I think we're actually going in at this point. Yeah, we just touched it a bit. But we can lock the ring there. Then we have all this adjustment we can do up here with our stem. So we'll go ahead and snug that up so the body of the die is not moving at all. And we can come down a little bit with this. And so here we have an appropriately sized bullet. This is a 452 diameter, and we're going to use it to determine whether or not we have enough flare here. So as you can see, currently we do not have enough to properly seat our bullet without scraping any of that coating and potentially causing leading and other issues with that bullet. So I'll just come down another little bit here. And we'll just pull out to check periodically. Yeah, we're not even close. Give her a few cranks there. So it just barely started belling the mouth, so I'm gonna start to just slowly touch on that. We are getting closer to being able to seat that, but still not quite there. And now you can see we are actually starting to get some flare on the top of the case mouth there that allows our bullet to sit perfectly square inside the case mouth. So now that we've got that pretty well set, I'm going to go ahead and try one or two more before we lock this in, and then we'll run the rest of them. Number 2. Yep, that one is just perfect as well. Try a third one. You know, just in case you have any variation in your case lengths, which is a good reason to have trimmed these to begin with, but just in case, you might as well check a few to make sure if you have a short one, you're still getting enough flare, and if you have a longer case, if you're getting way too much, you'll also notice that as well. So I think this is a pretty good start here, and since these are supposedly new pieces of brass, they should all be at the exact same length, thus getting the same amount of flare, so the same setting should work on every piece here. And now that we know our setting is good, we can run one of these up, and then we can tighten this lock ring up here. That way it's set to our setting on the brass, and it's not going to move on us at all. So we'll go ahead and knock these out, and I'll get back with you. Just like that, we are now sized and expanded, ready to accept new projectiles, but first we need to hit them with the Lee Ram Prime. Once again, we're going to be using the Ginex primers, so let's get this set up and we'll get on with it. Alright, so we're just here on the old Lee Ram Prime, and these primers are they're tight, I'll tell you what. So along with brass being new and these primers being just barely slightly oversized, it seems, they are fitting very snugly. So they'll go in and give it a nice at least half turn or third turn. Hit them a few times and make sure they end up nice and square, and that they're seated at least flush, if not below a little bit. But as you can see, might be hard to see, but this one's just slightly proud, and you also saw it's kind of lifting up the brass when I go to seat it, so you just got to be careful and get it in there one little bit at a time. And now we're good on that piece. So maybe I should save these primers for when I get to some blown out brass that would otherwise feel loose, with maybe a CCI or a Federal. But I thought I would try these Ginex out since I had them on hand. I've never tried the large pistol primers yet, but they feel slightly larger than standard American primers do. Other than that, we're going pretty smooth here. We got everything sized, everything expanded out. Doing good. So these will be ready to put away and load up as soon as we get them all done here. And I'm open to suggestions on loads. So we've already got a few other bullets loaded. You might have seen those episodes so far. Pretty good variety, ranging from 200 all the way up to like 405 grains, I think. So go check those out. Hopefully we'll be able to take those to the range someday sooner than later and get all that stuff tested and on paper, and maybe I'll get my chronograph replaced by then. That would be cool too. That would be a fun series to collect data for. We have quite a variety of stuff to test here with the 45 Colt. And just a tip here with the Lee Ram Prime. Dang, see, I didn't feel like I pushed that hard, but it kind of grabbed the brass and went up a bit, but feels like it's seated nicely. And you can see where it just barely boogered our rim right there. We'll just have to be careful. Making sure we're snug into the shell holder. Yeah, very nice. And my hands are clean aside from what you see on them. That's coming off the brass here. So I'm trying not to handle the primers and get my dirty fingers all over the face of them there. So, you know, I'm being careful, so don't worry about that. However, these ones we need to flip. A little bit troublesome sometimes. But primers are a little more resilient than we do think they are. I think it was Broke Loader who did a bunch of tests on it. He like got his fingers all dirty and rubbed some crap in them, and they still fired, and did some tests kind of like that. So I think that channel got deleted, but Broke Loader 2, maybe you can check that one out. Perhaps, I'm not certain if it's still up or not, or if the tubes took it away, because they don't like us talking about primers. Primers are bad. Casting bullets is bad. However, I've noticed I'm trying to learn about reloading shot shells and casting buckshot and stuff like that. That's totally fine. We can cast sinkers and buckshot and round balls, but do not cast a projectile. I've been watching the Bubba Roundtree Outdoor channel. He's pretty much like the JRB of shot shell reloading. Pretty awesome stuff over there. And also the Shotgun Scientists, a smaller channel. I think he's got almost 2,000 subs now, so go check him out. He's doing some really cool stuff with shot shell reloading and all that good stuff over yonder, so check them out if you have not. So yeah, I'm going to be getting into reloading shot shells here soon. I'll probably just be doing a standard like number 8 shot target load or something, and then probably just your standard 9 pellet double-aught buck, like military load or whatever the hell. We'll just start there, and after that I'll get creative, but that should be a pretty good time once we start getting into that. I'm probably going to save and try and get a mech rather than the Lee load-all. Though I'll probably get a Lee for 20 gauge whenever I get to that one, but I'll start with 12 gauge. But I've heard really great things about the mech, even just the single stage. I think it's the Slugger or the Junior maybe. I forget. There's like several different presses that mech makes, but it'll be just the most simple basic one. But you can still load a full shell on it with no problem. So what do you guys recommend? Which mech do you guys like? Let me know for shot shell reloading. Like I said, I'll probably be doing one load will be like a number 7 or a number 8 field load. And one will just be a buckshot, probably like a self-defense style load or something like that. Not meant for super long range or anything, but you know, should pack a good punch up close in your face. But then after that, who knows? I'm going to start casting all kinds of stupid stuff, all the different sizes of buckshot, all the round balls, because, you know, shot shell reloading is like freaking endless. I don't know a whole lot about shot shells, but as long as you fit your wad to your hole, and whether or not that's tapered or not, as long as that pair matches up, all you have to do is check your powder charge to your payload. And the powder doesn't care what shape your payload is. So if you have birdshot, you know, you can just switch that out with buckshot. Apparently, I don't know, you might have to change your wad, but as long as the payload is the same weight, the powder charges should work. And then you'll have to be careful whether it's a crimp, a star crimp, or a roll crimp. Apparently roll crimps take less pressure to open up because it's obviously not closed in the middle, so it just pops out much easier, so it has less pressure. So if you're looking at a roll crimp load and then you decide to go with the star crimp, then you might have increased pressures there, which could be dangerous. And yeah, just trying to pick up little tips here and there. I basically have none of the gear yet, so I'll be starting from scratch, just picking up wads and maybe a roll crimp tool and things here and there. And then, like I said, potentially a mech press would be ideal. And I've probably got a near unlimited supply of fired holes from the shooting range. It doesn't seem like anyone really collects them, and there's often quite a good decent selection to pillage through and pick out what I want. So I've already been collecting holes over time. Got a good selection of the Remington Nitro holes, whole bunch of the Federal target loads, just the super cheap. I'm not sure if it's the compression type or the other version, I can't remember. I'm sure I'm incorrect on that one, but the newer, cheaper holes, I have a whole bunch of those Federal Top Guns or whatever. So those will be easy to use for the target loads or birdshot or whatever I'm going to be doing. And then any other, woo buddy. And then I'll be saving the nicer like Remington Nitro holes, and you know, if there's any good Winchester AA's or whatever, I'm going to be saving those for the buckshot loads. Or if you guys have any suggestions, let me know which ones to look out for and set aside, because I don't exactly get like, you know, I can't go and just take my pick, but there's usually quite a good selection to go through if it hasn't rained and they're not all rusty and stuff already. Well, this was supposed to be a video about 45 Colt and the old Lee Ram Prime, but now we're talking about shot shells. Ha! Oh golly. We almost lost 7 cents there. Speaking of primers anyways, I did get a box of the Cheddite primers. They're like 65 or 70 bucks or whatever. So I know that they're the larger European style, but if it's the only primer I have, I'm not worried about getting those shells confused with whatever when I get standard size American primers. So I'll just know that I'm going to go with Cheddites and everything, and we'll be good to go. I know some of you guys like to separate them and only use specific primers and whatnot, but I think as long as I start with the lower charges and, you know, stick with the same primer, as long as it doesn't indicate that I need a Magnum primer, we should be good to go as far as I know. But again, if I'm spitting misinformation on the shot shell, you know, etiquette, let me know and direct me towards a place that can teach me better. Yeah, just a few more here. And like I said, I do enjoy the Lee Ram Prime, although I've heard a lot of you guys don't like it compared to being able to hand prime or just using the priming system on your press. I need to eventually hit up RCBS and tell them I have a rock chucker but none of the priming system, and then see if they can get me the right pieces and how much that'll cost and all that, and see if we can try that system. I also have probably half of like an RCBS priming, like bench priming system, so I need to get in contact with them about that one as well, see how we can refurbish that thing, because I basically have the body of it and there's like an arm and then shell holder, but I don't have a tube or any of the pins for the different size primers or any of that. So, you know, could be a work in progress or another fun tool to play with. We got 5 more here, folks. Trying to be careful to not hit those rims too hard. So that's when I'll come back and rotate. So just get it started, come down a bit, rotate, come down a bit. And then we're nice and flush, perfectly seated, yes. There we go, 3 more. Ooh, that one's real tight like, but it feels nice and beautifully seated after a couple of rotations there. You know, I bet if I just went and grabbed some Federals out of the old cabinet, they would have gone much smoother, but we're trying these out. I've already got Winchesters and Remingtons in my other brass, so I know that those are good. But these Ginex, to me, I've noticed that they're oversized for every variety so far. Well, good deal. There we have it. That was pretty quick. There's 100 pieces of brand new Remington Peters brass, all primed up with the Unis Ginex large pistol primers. We've got them sized. We've got them expanded out at the case mouth, nice and belled there. We got them primed. We are good to go here, ready for bullets and powder whenever we decide to do that. So make sure to stick around and we will see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.